Hi, my name is John Cooksey and welcome to our training video. We're going to take you step by step through all the features and functions of this camera and make you an expert in no time. So without further delay, let's get to our first section. Starting with the famous green square mode, this is ideal when you just get the camera, you want to start rattling off some pictures. It's fully automatic mode. The other function for this mode is you want to give somebody the camera to take some pictures that knows nothing about digital SLRs, that knows only about just pushing a button, and you don't want them messing anything up. That's the place to go to. Or if you got to take a picture quick and you forgot, you got to take it like super fast and you can't remember what settings you have up, it's a great way to default and go back to that because it's a whole set of default settings and you might be in some aperture priority weird mode and not have time to get it out of that. You could fly back to this fully automatic mode. P or program mode is the same as fully automatic mode, so it puts everything in automatic. The difference is it then allows you to change things like the aperture, the shutter, or different functions. So it defaults to automatic, but then says, hey, you can change some things on me if you want. And that's really the ideal mode for somebody who's an advanced beginner or even an advanced person. They want an automatic mode, but they want the flexibility and the ability to change many parameters of the camera. The next one is TV or time value mode, also known as shutter priority. What you're doing in this mode is you're saying, hey, I want to set the shutter and then I'm going to let the camera figure out what the aperture is in order to give me the best exposure. This is ideal if you're taking pictures of sports, really fast stuff, or slow things like a real long exposure, and you want to set that long exposure. The camera will then figure out the perfect picture. The next one is aperture priority mode. So if you want to really focus on throwing the background out of focus, or you want to have a landscape where everything's in focus, you can set that in the aperture priority mode, and it's going to be the reverse of time value. The camera is going to figure out the shutter speed that would be perfect to give you the correct exposure. So aperture priority, you're saying, hey, the aperture is the most important thing. I want to set that. Camera, you figure out the rest for me. This is a fun one for the advanced person out there. It's manual mode. So if you decide, you know what, I want to mess around with my shutter speed and my aperture and do some really crazy things, sometimes outside the boundaries of what normally would be done, that's the way to go. Now, how do you adjust your to make sure you have the right exposure? Well, sometimes you want to under or overexpose in manual mode, but there's always the exposure meter that's on the back of the camera or that you could see through the viewfinder to allow you to get the proper exposure. So you're on your own in manual mode, but you can have a lot of fun in manual mode because for the advanced user, it allows you to expand past the normal boundaries of picture taking. With the A-DEP mode at the top of the dial, your camera will take its focus points and pick the closest object and the farthest objects away and try to make them all in focus. So if you're ever in a situation where you want to make sure pretty much everything's in focus or you can't read the focus too easily, just go ahead and put it in A-DEP mode and that'll ensure the maximum amount of depth of field possible in that particular situation. So if I'm going to go into a crowd of cheerleaders warming up and I don't want to have to worry about focus and I actually want to get all their focus and faces in focus, the A-DEP mode might be ideal for that. Over here on the dial we have the no flash setting, so if you're in a setting that automatically pops up a flash, you can override it in this particular setting. Moving on to CA or Creative Auto. This is a different way of setting your camera up for those that are pretty much beginners with the camera and they know that they want to either blur the background out of focus or they want to change one of the drive modes, but they want an easier way to understand it and do it. The Creative Auto is a nice way to just go in there and dial in the amount of background blur you want or adjust your timer or whatever. It's just another way of doing the same thing but an easier method for people that are just starting out. Here's our setting for portraits, and it will make sure your tonal qualities will be ideal for skin tone. Also, once you set it in the portrait mode, it allows you, once you hold the button down, the shutter button down, to run in continuous shooting mode to take picture after picture after picture at a rapid fire. And sometimes that's really good if you're taking portraits of people. You have your next one set up for landscape, both the focal plane, the large depth of field, and the coloring, ideal for landscapes. The next setting with a little tulip, ideal for close-ups. And the next setting, if you're shooting sports and you don't want to have to go into shutter priority mode and figure it all out, this will do it for you. It's your sports mode. The next setting, you see a little person with a star next to him. And what this is night portrait mode. So if you're taking portraits outside at night and you want the background to be in focus somewhat, especially if you're using a flash, this will hold open your shutter a little longer, taking into account the background, getting some shots there as well as the foreground. So your background, if it's not coming out bright enough for you and you're taking shots of people at night, try this mode. And the next mode finally is your motion picture, your filming mode, which will allow you to take movies and motion pictures with this camera.